No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society. It's still
Okay, no.
What you're about to hear is absolutely mind-blowing. Ben Shapiro, one of the loudest voices against woke culture, has just pulled off a move that no one saw coming. What he just did is shaking the foundations of everything you thought you knew about this movement. Brace yourself, as his actions could change the game entirely. Stick around until the end, because this is something you do not want to miss. This conservative lawyer just humiliated a woke student, and you won't believe how it all went down. It began when the student argued that gender is merely a social construct, entirely separate from biological sex. But the lawyer wasn't having it. "That's not true," he shot back. "Gender isn't completely disconnected from sex. While there are cultural elements, biology remains the foundation."
I'm 20.
As a mathematician and a physicist, what in the hell do you know about human biology?
And you got your law degree from...
From heated university debates to explosive TV showdowns, this lawyer has been making headlines for standing up against the woke narrative. Armed with sharp logic and solid facts, he isn't afraid to tackle the most controversial topics, especially gender identity. In a recent event, a student thought they had the perfect argument to redefine womanhood, claiming it had nothing to do with biology. But the lawyer, unfazed, dismantled the argument in seconds.
The term mother does not include father. Every category has to have boundaries. The boundary of female starts at male. And when you start including male in the category of female, you are threatening biological definitions as well as basic truth.
As someone who exhibits said womanhood.
Okay, well, you have just used the word female and woman to define each other. So you say a woman is a female, but not a biological female. A female is a woman and a woman is a female, but at no point have you added any new content.
No, I said a woman is someone who exhibits...
You've used the terms female and woman interchangeably without adding any new meaning, he countered. In 99.9% of cases, you can determine someone's gender based purely on biology. When the student brought up intersex people, the lawyer remained calm. For all of human history, there has been an objective standard distinguishing male from female. This is no exception, he retorted sharply. Desperate, the student tried to argue that gender is a spectrum, but the lawyer's response was direct and brutal. Claiming you're female when all your biological markers say otherwise is anti-scientific nonsense.
So the objective standard, here's the deal. For all of human history, there was an objective standard between male and female. You have every single biological characteristic of a male, and if I say I am female, then I am female. This is anti-scientific nonsense. Okay, here's my problem with that particular argument. The answer is that in 99.8%, 99.9% of cases, you absolutely can gender somebody based on looking at them. Like really, if you're going to use intersex people as an example of not being able to do that, this does not obviate the biological duality of sex upon which all progeneration is based for all of human history and for all mammalians.
This wasn't just a debate. It was a masterclass in dismantling flawed arguments. The student was left speechless. Another example of what happens when you try to outsmart this lawyer's logic. But the real fireworks happened during a live TV debate with transgender activist Zoe Tur. Things escalated when Tur grabbed the lawyer by the neck after he referred to her as Sir. Unfazed by the physical threat, the lawyer calmly responded. Every chromosome in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male, except for some of his sperm cells.
Back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well, but wait, to be fair,
Bruce Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male with the exception of some of his sperm.
The confrontation made headlines not just for the physical aggression, but because it became a defining moment in the national conversation on free speech and the right to express unpopular opinions without fear of violence. His calm and firm stance earned him both respect and criticism, but his message was clear. Facts don't care about your feelings or your threats. In another debate with Blair White, a conservative transgender YouTuber, the lawyer acknowledged people's right to live as they choose. However, he maintained that science should not be sacrificed for social conventions. "I'm not going to go out of my way to offend someone," he said, "but I'm also not going to use language that contradicts biological reality."
Pronouns are designed to differentiate between men and women, and that transgender women are not biological women, and that anything that attempts to overcome that argument is obfuscation rather than clarification.
Tensions ran even higher during his appearance at UC Berkeley, where his views sparked massive protests. Despite the chaos, the lawyer held his ground, responding to a student who challenged his refusal to use preferred pronouns. Teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns or that sex doesn't exist is asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive, he explained. He made it clear that while people are free to identify however they want, they cannot force others to use language that contradicts biological facts.
I mean, I would try to avoid specifically offending you by using a pronoun that you don't like, but I also am not going to bow to the sort of social convention now that I'm supposed to use a pronoun of people's choosing rather than a pronoun that accurately describes the truth.
This lawyer's debates are not just intellectual showdowns. They are moments that are redefining the conversation on free speech, gender, and the intersection of science and ideology. Every time he steps into the spotlight, one thing becomes clearer. He's not backing down.
Not everybody that the left says is alt-right is actually alt-right. I mean, the left calls me alt-right, which is patently insane.
During a heated event titled Men Cannot Be Women, Ben Shapiro found himself at the center of yet another debate. A student challenged him, accusing Shapiro of using outdated information to support his views. The student attempted to weaken Shapiro's argument by referencing the DSM-5 and the concept of gender dysphoria. Shapiro, unfazed, rebutted calmly, emphasizing that his use of the term was in line with clinical definitions, and the student's attempt to divert the conversation fell flat.
Do that. But I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-science. I literally cited the DSM-5 in the speech, and it's called gender dysphoria, which is a term that I use throughout the speech, not gender identity
sound like
disorder,
a bozo, bro. And you get no pussy, and you can't even make your wife wet, bro, so what's good?
But the exchange didn't end there. The student shifted gears, claiming that Shapiro's views on gender were rooted in a Western colonial framework. The student argued that many cultures, such as Native American and various African societies, have acknowledged the existence of third-gender individuals long before Western concepts emerged. Shapiro, with his signature bluntness, pointed out the flaws in the argument, sarcastically noting that men and women don't exist in any other culture. Another confrontation unfolded when Shapiro addressed medical transitioning for children.
Framework of gender.
You're right. Men and women don't exist in any other culture.
No. Think about Native American.
Nailed it.
Third gender people. I'm not saying that. Third gender people exist in Native American societies, Western African societies, like Southern Native American societies, like Mexico. So in other places that are not white dominated,
and they
like
are
the United
incorrect.
States or Europe, and so you're
I'm
saying white, so non-white
incorrect.
people. I'm a mathematician in a.
During a college appearance, a student attempted to corner him on the topic of puberty blockers and even brought up the subject of circumcision, attempting to imply a double standard in Shapiro's logic. The student questioned if circumcising his sons contradicted his stance on medical decisions for minors. Shapiro quickly dismissed the comparison, highlighting the stark differences between the irreversible nature of gender transitioning and the practice of circumcision. He underscored the importance of considering long-term consequences when making life-altering decisions for children.
Ben, are your children circumcised? Did you circumcise your children?
Yes, I have two sons and they're both circumcised.
Why would you do that? Isn't that kind of hypocritical?
Nope, I'm circumcised, my works just fine.
And I can tell you, there's sensitivity right there, Ben, that is removed when you do a circumcision. Why is that okay to you?
Well, I don't mean to get personal, but I'm sure it doesn't seem like you could possibly have a basis for comparison.
Perhaps one of the most intense moments came at Ferris State University, where Shapiro debated the idea of gender as a social construct. A student armed with academic theories argued that gender is merely a performance shaped by societal norms. Shapiro dismantled the claim, explaining that while societal roles may influence how we perceive gender, the biological reality of male and female remains unchanged. He challenged the student to define woman without using the word itself, a tactic popularized by Shapiro's colleague Matt Walsh to highlight the inconsistency in certain gender theories.
So one of the big problems that you see in sort of the argument in favor of trans rights is this notion that gender and sex are completely separable. They're not completely separable. If they are completely separable, then this means that identifying people by their subjective gender really has no relevance as to whether they are a male or a female. Male and female are biological terms. So using terminology like male and female to describe a self-perception of maleness or femaleness is sort of a bizarre way of arguing whether a thing is a man or a woman. So here's my question. It's an argument that my friend Matt Walsh likes to make. What is a woman? Define what a woman is without reference to the word woman, please.
Throughout these debates, Shapiro's core belief remained unwavering. Biology is an objective truth that cannot be altered by subjective feelings or societal trends. His approach isn't just about winning arguments. It's about defending what he perceives as essential principles of Western civilization. Shapiro argues that values like personal responsibility, free speech, and the recognition of objective truths are under threat in today's culture wars. As these discussions continue to unfold, Shapiro's stance on gender, free speech, and medical transitioning remains clear and unapologetic. His ability to break down complex arguments, paired with his refusal to back down, makes him a controversial figure, but also a steadfast defender of the values he holds dear. The battle over free speech, gender definitions, and societal norms is far from over, and figures like Shapiro are determined to keep pushing back against political correctness.
There have been lots of countries all over Europe that were not particularly civilized and were quite white. Freedom, personal responsibility, separation of powers, God-given rights protected by a government elected with the consent of the government. These are the values of Western civilization.
In conclusion, Ben Shapiro remains one of the most influential and polarizing voices in debates surrounding gender, free speech, and the preservation of fundamental Western values. Whether he's engaging with students or intellectuals, Shapiro consistently challenges dominant narratives, defending what he believes are immutable truths, such as biological facts and the long-term impact of medical decisions on children. For Shapiro, these exchanges are not merely debates. They represent a cultural battle over the direction society is heading. At the core, this goes beyond mere disagreements over terms or concepts. It's about how we define reality itself and what that means for freedom of thought and the right to dissent. Shapiro may be a divisive figure, but his unwavering stance and insistence on defending core principles ensure that he will remain a powerful force in these discussions. The question is, are we ready to confront these issues with the same clarity and conviction, or will the noise of debate overshadow the pursuit of truth? What do you think? Do you agree with Ben Shapiro's views on these issues? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more analysis and content.